Ways and Means meeting to order. Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Roll call, June, please.
Mr. Morrow?
Here.
Mr. Harrington?
Here.
Mr. Maryhill?
Here.
Mr. Gardner?
Here.
Mr. Douglas has been excused. Mr. Fairby?
Here.
Mr. Blades?
Here.
Mr. McNally?
Here.
Mr. Skazvala?
Here.
Mr. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Paliti?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Marnell?
Here.
Mr. Whitson?
Here.
Mr. Grinnell has been excused. Mr. Connell?
Here.
Mr. Gilliland?
Here.
And Mr. Preston?
Here.
Thank you.
I have one guest who I don't see. We'll move forward into resolutions if Kathleen Moore shows up, and we'll bring her in at the end, I guess. Judy?
Resolutions recommended by the Human Services Committee authorizing an increase in revenues and appropriations in the Department of Social Services in the amount of $17,831, Stop Domestic Violence Non-Residential Grant.
Moved by Mr. Blades. Second? Second, Mr. Harrington. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carries.
Resolution urging New York State Department of Social Services to periodically perform drug testing on all public assistance recipients.
Moved by Mr. Skazvala. Second by Mr. Cannon. All in favor, or comments or questions? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the appointment of Vivian Reiner of New Russia as a member of the Essex County Community Services Board Developmental Disabilities Subcommittee for a term effective January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2018.
Moved by Mr. Maryhill. Do I have a second? Mr. Gardner. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed?
Authorizing Public Health to accept a Creating Healthy Places grant in the amount of $87,500.
Moved by Mr. Blades. Second by Mr. Skazvala. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Public Health Department to accept a New York State Department of Health grant in the amount of $38,000.
Moved by Mr. Maryhill. Second? Mr. Morrow. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an increase in revenue and appropriations in the Office for the Aging Department in the amount of $1,700 for a health insurance information counseling assistance program grant.
Moved by Mr. Connell. Second? Second by Mr. Skazvala. Comments or questions? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolutions recommended by the Public Safety Committee authorizing the reappointment of Allison McGahee as Essex County Republican Commissioner.
Moved by Mr. Paliti. Second by Mr. Gilliland. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolutions recommended by the Economic Development Committee accepting and placing on file the 2015 Essex County Fish Hatchery Stocking Report.
Moved by Mr. Paliti. Second. Mr. Connell. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution of congratulations to Adam Jaquish of the Mariah Central School Boys Varsity Basketball Team upon scoring his 1,000th point.
Moved by Mr. Skazvala. Thank you.
Of congratulations to the Mariah Boys Varsity Basketball Team for winning the Section 7 Class D Championship.
Moved by Skazvala. Thank you.
Of congratulations to the Town of Keene Boys Varsity Basketball Team for being runner-up in the Section 7 Class D Championship.
I'd like to move that, please.
Second. Of congratulations to the Mariah Girls Varsity Basketball Team for winning the Section 7 Class D Championship.
Second. Thank you.
Of congratulations to the Town of Keene Girls Varsity Basketball Team for being runner-up in the Section 7 Class D Championship.
Move that.
Second.
Thank you.
Of congratulations to the Lake Placid High School Hockey Team for winning the Section 7 title and advancing to the State Final Four in Utica.
Moved by Mr. Paliti. Thank you.
Of condolence to the family of Shirley Catherine Knight.
Moved by Mr. Marnell. Second.
Resolutions recommended by the DPW Committee authorizing with the terms of the new PERM 1 undertaking with the New York State DOT and approving the same for the Shared Services Agreement.
Moved by Mr. Morrow. Second, Mr. Marnell. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed?
Resolution is recommended by the Personnel Committee, authorizing a memorandum of understanding among public and private organizations regarding aquatic invasive species prevention in the Adirondack region.
Moved by Mr. Cannon. Second, Mr. Gillillan. Comments or questions? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolutions of congratulations to Lena Sifrin on celebrating her 100th birthday.
Moved by Mr. Pablo. Second.
Resolutions recommended by the Finance Committee, accepting and placing on file the 2014 Real Property Tax Service Annual Report.
Moved by Mr. Pablo. Second. Mr. Morrow. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing a correction of 2014 Town and County Tax Roll, Town of Crown Point, Harp Living Trust, care of Helen T. Harp, in the amount of $1,046.74.
Moved by Mr. Harrington. Second. Mr. Maryhew. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
In support of delaying the personal income tax credit proposal in the New York State 2015 budget.
Moved by Mr. Moore. Second. Second, Mr. Maryhew. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
In support of the requirement for updated photos on the New York State driver's licenses.
Moved by Mr. Woodson, second by Mr. Moore. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Urging an increase in county revenue retention in the Department of Motor Vehicle Office.
Moved by Mr. Scazafava, second by Mr. Maryhew. Comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Designating April 2015 as National Donating Life Month.
Moved by Mr. Cannon. Second. Thank you.
Of condolence to the family of Mark Peduzzi.
I'll move that along with Second. Thank you.
Of condolence to the family of Christopher James Haley.
I'll also move that. Second.
Of condolence to the family of Mary Magenta LeClaire Reed.
I'll move that as well. Second. Thank you.
Under miscellaneous, resolution authorizing the Essex County Chairman or County Manager to execute the Upper Hudson Recreation Hub Grant Program, bearing contract number 9HT603-3 for the Microenterprise Grant Program between Essex County and Essex County Industrial Development Agency in the total amount of $100,000 as recommended by the Hub Grant Review Committee.
Moved by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Cannon. Comments or questions?
Just one addition to that, it would also state at the end, and to execute any and all related subrecipient agreements.
Comments or questions on that? Not all in favor, aye? Aye.
Resolution authorizing the Chairman or County Manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for a temporary loan of interoperable communications resources.
Moved by Mr. Maryhew, second. Second. Mr. Morrow, comments or questions?
Yeah, I guess for Dan, what exactly is...
It's just an agreement with the state that we can loan them emergency services equipment. They can get equipment back, we can get it back from them.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you? Okay. Next one. Resolution authorizing the Chairman or County Manager to file an application for state assistance from Household Hazardous Waste State Assistance Program and executing the associated state contract under the laws of New York State.
Moved by Mr. Whedon, second. Mr. Blades. Comments or questions? Not all
Does this help revenue or fund when we have our collection days? Is that what?
Yeah, it pays 50% of the cost of the actual operation. Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution in support of State Assembly Bill number 3558 regarding the redefinition of Section 60 of the General Construction Law.
Moved by Blades, second by Mr. Morrow. Comments or questions?
I brought this before you. There is in the pipeline right now proposed legislation introduced by Assemblyman Steck and Senator Little to seek an amendment to Section 60 of the General Construction Law. The General Construction Law is the portion of the law which defines what a newspaper is. It's very convoluted and it's very confusing. You have to take it apart and read it bit by bit to understand what they're trying to get at. Currently, the General Construction Law says you cannot be an official newspaper unless there are a variety of things. You have to be a typical newspaper which offers articles, sports, obituary, advertisement, things of that nature. It also states that you have to have a paid circulation. Then there are exceptions to the paid circulation rule. If you are, from 1940 through 1970 you were an official newspaper, then that is an exception to the paid circulation rule. There's another exception, I believe, I can't remember, but it has to do with whether you've mailed by second-class mail or not. The purpose of Steck's legislation is to remove the qualification that the newspaper have a paid circulation. That would be removed, and therefore that would allow any municipality to designate an official newspaper which does not have a paid circulation. I can see where it would work up here. I don't know whether this legislation will probably go anywhere, because once you get down into the larger cities like New York City or Syracuse, Buffalo, if those words are removed, paid circulation, you could conceivably publish you could name your official newspaper,
Saber.
yeah, So, but up here, it could have some legs. If the legislation was to pass, it would give you the discretion to either use a paid circulated paper or an unpaid circulated paper. So that's what it is. I just wanted to get it before you. You don't have to vote on it today if you want to think about it. But I know Warren County has supported this. I don't know what other counties have. And as I said, Steck has introduced the legislation.
Yeah, this is actually, I believe, being driven by Warren County, because there's a newspaper down there, the Chronicle, that is a free newspaper, and I think that's
Could well be.
what's created this, so.
It's out there. If you don't want to deal with it today, we can deal with it later. But just wanted to get it before you.
Someone like to move that today? Moved by Mr. Glillen, second by Mr. Moore. Further comments or questions? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The next one from the floor is resolution urging the state of New York to increase funds in order to ensure the safety of local communities against the impacts associated with the crude oil spill.
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Scottafatto. Second, Mr. Glillen.
And I just want some discussion too. This is another resolution that I pulled off the internet. NICEAG is supporting it. Basically, the governor has placed in his budget a surcharge where the money would go to clean up in the event there are crude oil or other oil catastrophes by rail or by marine, by ships and boats. It basically states that the New York State Association of Counties, we would assert our name, commends Governor Cuomo's recognition of the risk posed by oil transportation throughout New York State by proposing to increase investment in the state's oil spill fund. Be it further resolved that it would be Essex County urges the state legislature to support the governor's proposed increase of resources to the state's oil spill fund and to keep that fund under the control of the state comptroller for the purpose and sole and express purpose of spill cleanup. Again, I'm just bringing it before you. You don't have to pass it today. If you want to look into the pros and cons of, whether you want an increase in the surcharge versus the spill, I don't have a recommendation one way or the other, but I wanted to get it before you so that we didn't overlook it.
Someone like to move that today, or are we going to?
We did move it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just from my clarity, when you mention the surcharge, is that a charge to the oil companies that the state keeps in reserves, or are we talking about allocating taxpayer money for the possibility of an emergency cleanup?
I don't know, it's a surcharge on any oil moving throughout New York State.
So it would be on the company?
So, I'm sure it's on the company, but they pass it down to the consumer, but no, that would be my guess. But I don't know anything further about this. We may want to take a closer look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I've been reading in the Times-Union is almost positive that it's a charge that's going to be billed against the oil companies that are shipping this stuff. I'm not certain about the railroads, but, one spill financially will devastate any community that this happens in. I mean, you couldn't even begin to do a cleanup. So, it's something that's needed. They're shipping this stuff up and down the rails through the whole eastern portion of this county. There's a lot of towns that something catastrophic could happen.
NYSEG has supported it.
My concern is it looks like we're going to charge the companies that are producing and transporting the oil, but they have no control over the infrastructure of those rails. To me, it's difficult for me to understand why they're being charged.
It's my understanding that the railroads are going to, I'm not certain on that, all I know is what I read in the newspapers. They say people are better read if they read nothing at all in a newspaper, but anyway, so, I'm not certain on that.
I saw on Channel 9 News that there had been an inspection of the railroad, and within a short distance, there were found to be 70 infractions. That being said, I am reminded of the person who came here defending the railroad, stating how diligently they inspected and that everything was always at the top of the line. Again, the town office in Crown Point is within 40 yards or less of the railroad. There are times when every chair shakes, and that's not because of the railroad. That's because of the cars. There's something wrong being with a car, so there's problems on both ends, not just the railroad itself. There has to be more scrutiny provided.
Towards the rail line itself.
On this issue, I spoke to DEC at length about what happens with, first off, we have a fire from a crash like this. That's a whole other story, but if we just have an environmental spill, either into a lake or into rivers or something like that. And they said that help will come, but it may take weeks, ice hours. And that eventually once it goes through the court systems and stuff like that, the owner of the oil and the transporter of the oil will share the cost eventually. But then you're talking weeks and months and stuff like that of being able, and when this does happen, and I say when this does happen, they keep transporting the oil, whatever community is there is going to need an instantaneous source of money. Eventually the state will get the money back. The federal government will get the money back. But you can't have a little town here with a million gallons of oil running down a river and everything like that, waiting weeks for cleanup.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Any resolutions from the floor?
Thank you. The Fair Facility Committee met just before this Ways and Means Committee, and we have a resolution that we would like to bring forward, and that is to allow the Essex County Agriculture Society, that is the fair, to sell beer and wine at the 2015 Essex County Fair. Now, we're just asking for the 1 year again. Last year was not very successful. We want to try it one more year with some changes.
Second to that resolution, Mr. Moore. Comments or questions? If not, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? I'm against. Opposed, Mr. Blades. Any other?
I have a couple. I had sent the board a request for laptop and cell phone encryption for those laptops and things that are leaving our facility, or bring your own devices that are attempting to access our information. So I'm requesting a resolution for the purchase of a Mass S360 IBM software solution from IBM reseller SHI at an amount up to $5 per machine per month, or for what I anticipate to be about 125 machines. So I'm looking at about $7,500 a year is what I'm requesting. We do have enough within our IT budget to cover this. We're involved now in the HIPAA project, and one of the major issues with the HIPAA project is laptops and tablets leaving the building not being encrypted. This software provides for that. One of the misconceptions, though, that I think is already out there as soon as I started talking about it, was that we were going to be somehow looking at or encrypting or tracking people's own phones or people's own laptops, or those kinds of things. That's not the case. How it actually works is we have a number of public access points throughout the facility. If you bring in your own laptop and you connect to that public network, it's not going to affect you at all. You won't see anything different. However, if you attempt to access the county's network to get at county data, it will force you to register. And once it registers, it creates a silo on your device that becomes encrypted, and it's not possible for you to move files out of that silo. So that assures that any information taken out of this facility will always be encrypted and will always be contained within those silos. Those silos also provide us the ability that if somebody takes home a laptop or a phone or whatever it is they happen to have, and if they lose that device, they can call us and we can wipe that device remotely, so that any data that's out there would immediately be gone. If it turns out that an hour later they found the laptop, we can remotely restore that data back to the silo. So it's pretty powerful software, and it's something that's reasonably priced, believe it or not, at $5 a month per machine, up to some of the machines are 3 and some are 2, depending on the machine. But that's a request that I'm making, so that we can purchase this from New York State contract.
Mr. Moore. Second by Mr. Cannon. This is a question. Dan, is this a contract? Is this a yearly contract, or is it something that's negotiated every year?
Well, it can be negotiated every year, but we basically it's a price set per machine based upon who accesses the network. Yes, I have budgeted funds within IT.
Further comments or questions? Tom?
Dan, I wouldn't think that's... I'm trying to understand why someone would put any of that information on a personal computer or tablet or...
Well, I got to tell you, I do it myself. During budget season, I have my own laptop.
Right.
I will carry my own laptop in, which is a 17-inch. I mean, I have a small Surface here, but a little hard to work on budget stuff. So I'll carry my own laptop in, put county files on that laptop, and leave. And it happens all the time. In public health, that happens a lot. They carry tablets and all those kinds of things. Those machines are going out. We encrypt those machines.
But those are county machines.
Those are county machines.
Right. I'm saying public health wouldn't be putting...
Public health wouldn't necessarily have their own, but a lot of people do. If you have your own laptop, or one of the most common bring your own devices is your phone. Phones can actually access county networks if they know the passwords and how to get in. So you have to have a way to assure that if they do that, and if they pull any county data, that it's going to be encrypted.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor, aye?
The second one that Linda and I have been working on, and we've had some discussions with Mike and Charlie, is quite a few years ago, we actually looked at the mega power agreement, and at the time it didn't seem to work out. But what we're looking for now, though, is an authorization to do a power purchase agreement through Mega for 3 years, and it's actually as a piggyback under contract with Geneseo County, and it would produce about 41,000 in power bill savings over the course of a year. We're currently paying about 7.6 cents, and that's a market rate, fluctuates, goes up or down, but we're currently paying about 7.6 cents a kilowatt. This proposal under Mega would be for 6.3 cents a kilowatt. We use a tremendous amount of kilowatts, obviously. We have 4,538 kilowatts per year that we produce, so it does produce a fairly good savings. So we're asking for a resolution to authorize us to contract with Mega through the Geneseo piggyback contract.
Moved by Mr. Mayfield, second by Mr. Scott. No, I'm not seconding it. I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, and that was part of mine. Will the towns be able to piggyback that up?
Sure. Yeah, as long as, that's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the town can. Tom? Yeah, I've looked into this for our own town, and these sound like great deals. The problem is you're locked in. That price per kilowatt drops to 4 cents, you're still paying 6.3. And as you said, power sold as a commodity. It's, once you're into this thing, you're in it for 3 years.
Yeah.
So you could see a potential savings.
You could.
But you also could see a potential, it could go the other way. That's the unfortunate part, is they don't sell this power based on the market. You lock in at 6.3, you're there.
That's correct. The problem is, and the issue for us is that the market at times has gone up to 10 or 15 cents a kilowatt.
I understand.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Mike?
I've been a member for 2 years, and we were just checking them the other day. We are saving money. We have saved money. If I'd have got in 2 years and 4 months earlier, when we had that big spike that spring, it would have been...
Yeah, you would have been locked away.
Thousands there between the water and sewer plant alone.
Yeah.
So it has worked good for us so far.
Any other comments?
Historically, have you seen prices go down?
Not below the 6.3. They did a historical analysis for us, and I can get you guys a copy of that. It's, 6.3 is pretty much the bottom. At least it has been over the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's a safe bet. I really do. Or I wouldn't have brought it, believe me. We've like Mike said, a year and I got to tell you, some of our bills during the period of spikes was, we still had the nursing home at that time, and we were getting $25,000 a month bills for the nursing home based upon the market spike. So this is a way to avoid the market spike. I understand that there's a chance it could go below 6.3, but if it does go below 6.3, it's not going to go a tremendous amount below 6.3. I just don't see it happening. It does, however, prevent those huge spikes where you jump up to 20 cents or 15 cents or whatever the market happens to be bearing at the time. It's a safe, conservative bet.
Charlie, comment?
We recently changed. As a result of changing, our former supplier was almost harassing us to come back. Finally, I told the clerk to refer the phone call to me. the representative stated that they had a rebate that was going to be for figures, but they couldn't tell me what those digits were within those four figures. So I said, I want you to know that we did do our homework and that we followed the recommendations of the Association of Towns. The immediate response was, they hung up the phone. So that's where we're at.
Tom? Yeah, I had the same call, and they were harassing and promising all kinds. In fact, they even told us we were with the company, and we're with National Grid. We buy our power through National Grid. And I told them I was going to call Public Service Commission, and they hung up, as you said. So I think National Grid, I'm not certain on this, but it can be checked. That's who we buy through. I think they've, since the spike, have come down as low as 4 cents. And it depends. If you're on demand, I would assume most of our places here are on demand meters, so that rate fluctuates depending upon when your use is.
Delivery charge.
But it's, it's not an easy thing to calculate, and I understand this looks like there's going to be a big savings, but I think we need to do a little more research on it personally. I think we need to go back, and who do we buy right now from NYSEG?
NYSEG.
Right out there? Okay.
Any further comments or questions? Not, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. That's all I have, thanks. Dan? Any further resolutions from the floor?
I want a resolution of congratulations to Taylor Slattery, who's a junior at Mariah Central School, for being named to the New York State Public High School Athletics Association's All-Star Basketball Team.
Second. Unanimous second. Thank you. Anything further from the floor? Mr. President.
Just a question. I see Jim Dugan from AES is in the audience. I didn't know if he had any updates in regards to the little white-faced building that he wants to share or not.
Any updates? You'd like to come up? Come forward, please.
I'd offer the courtesy of the floor.
Tom, on that last resolution, do you have any information on that? Do you have any printed information on Taylor Slattery or no?
Yeah.
Can you get...
I met with with some members of the board approximately a month ago. Thanks, Ed. Great. I met with some members of the board approximately a month ago. We made two recommendations at that meeting. One was to put the contractor, notify that contractor's bonding company, and then at least making fairly immediate emergency repairs while still trying to get final decisions from the manufacturer of that panel. About a week after that meeting, we did notify the contractor and their bonding company through Mr. Manning's office. And last Wednesday, we made what I would call emergency repairs, at least a temporary solution. I have pictures of that I can share with the board, of the members of the committee. And we have at least one more trip to make when the weather gets a little bit warmer to do some repairs on the exterior of the building that wouldn't have held up in last week's cold temperatures. And from there, I'll continue to work with Mr. Manning if we need to do anything else with the contractor's bonding company.
Good, Jim. Thank you. Any questions for Jim? Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further comments, questions for the committee? I believe our guest, Mrs. Moore, is here. Mrs. Moore, would you like to come on up now? Mrs. Moore is from the Adirondack Daily Enterprise and Lake Placid News. Come on up.
I don't know if you're familiar with your hometown paper. We have the Daily, the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. Covers the Tri-Lake area and the small towns around it. Comes out Monday through Saturday. It's over a century old, and We have the weekly newspaper, the Lake Placid News, from Lake Placid and covers Essex County. The reason I wanted to speak to you was about legal notices. And I know you spoke about the contract law that's in legislation to change. That's been happening since Senator Stafford's been here, was here, I should say, and it always doesn't seem to make it. The reason being is the value of a hometown paper that's paid. It's not thrown out in the junk mail at your post office or in a dumpster. It is welcomed into the home. We have editorials, we cover the news, the arrests, features, everything that's of value to local people. And people who buy a subscription want it. They're engaged. They're citizens who want to know about the taxes, whatever's up for bid, meetings, and you can deliver to other people, but if they're not reading or they're not caring about government like they should, they won't read it. So when people subscribe, they want to be engaged in their community, and they find value in their hometown newspaper that covers those items. And that's what we want, is public notices to show open government and keep people informed, even to LLCs, new businesses in town. And we've been doing it forever. And I have a few handouts if you want. I just wanted to specify if it is the law that you have to put it in a paid publication. If you have any questions, this is, we have a book that I can leave with you. It's put out by the New York Newspaper Association, which is basically all the dailies from the New York Times to me, and to the New York Press Association, which is over 700 newspapers throughout New York, and the New York Law Journal. They also want to keep open government and accessible to everybody, so we not only put our public notices, as many New York papers do, in print, but also reach a larger audience online at newyorknewspapers.com. And this reaches a large audience that both digitally on any device, and it's searchable, and you can search by county, town, or subject. So here's a few handouts. I don't know how many people will be here, but just to look through and so I'm hoping that you will see that legal notices are determined as far as the price. That's decided by the legislature. We don't say, hey, we'll give you a deal. You pay what the legislation card says. And the last increase was in 1990. So between the Lake Placid News and the Enterprise, you paid 38.5 cents per line. If you went to somebody who distributes a larger circulation, whether it's concentrated in your county or not, and just sprinkles a little, you might be paying per line from a higher concentration that doesn't reach your area. But the rates are set by law, and we don't do that. Yes?
We don't utilize your papers as a legal paper? No. I think we used to years ago.
It's up to...
I'm saying right now, we do not use the Adirondack Daily Enterprise or Lake Placid News.
Not the Board of Supervisors, and that's why I'm...
Which is amazing, because that's the bulk of the population of the county.
Not for the tax notices.
What's that?
Not for the tax notices?
We use them for public notices, but not for the taxes.
I don't understand where you got, population up there, probably 12,000, 13,000 people. we don't use them, but yet we use the Post-Star, which,
We do use
no
them.
offense intended, but you don't, I'm just saying, that newspaper,
We do use them.
the Post-Star,
And the Adirondack Daily.
we do use them.
For legal notices.
This is all about the tax notice.
Who do we use for the tax, because obviously it's a tax sale, we're driving the train here. Who do we use for the tax sale?
Post-Star and the Plattsburgh Press.
That's my point, exactly.
Mrs. Warren, I had a conversation last week, and she's been communicating with Mike Diskins by email and copied me as well. Mrs. Moore did provide a cost of what if her paper had run the last notice that we did in the Plattsburgh Press. And what I haven't seen in the email, is I think I asked you, is for circulation numbers.
Yes. It's $2,500 for the Lake Placid News and approximately $3,500 for the Adirondack Daily Enterprise.
Those are subscriptions?
Those are paid subscribers, people who also pay on the newsstands.
They're not included in that number though, correct?
Yeah, they're included in that.
Newsstand, yeah, okay.
Yes.
And what about your website? You post these, would you post?
Yes, if you go to our website, you'll see, we post them every day. It'll say New York Public Notices on the left, and you click on that, and you'll see what we load up every day. So our readers have doubled in the past 5 years, and all our ads are outside the web.
We discussed, we've had this conversation, and I recommended that you read the minutes from the last meeting when then publication was here, just to see the context of the conversation we, the board, had at that time. Again, we are waiting, as I told you, for direct determination from our county attorney, as to what we can do, and you've heard some of what Dan Stack is trying to present, and then a board decision. I mean, we're looking at, it would definitely be an increase in cost for the county, if we added yours publication. So it's just, again, we're not making a decision here today. You're here to make...
Because it's according to circulation, we have a lower circulation than the Press Republican, so it would be less money. If you're going into a free publication, like Denton's, you're not required by law to do that, so therefore you are...
We understand that we're not required to.
Spending money that you might not
It's a matter of the board looking into the cost of adding a paper that we don't have to pay for, along with yours as well. And it just would be a board decision. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
You can a quote newspaper can be a newspaper that does not have a paid circulation, provided and on condition that they were previously, from 1940 to 1970, designated as an official newspaper. It's the last paragraph of Section 60, which basically says, notwithstanding what we said in the preceding part of this paragraph, if that's the case, you are an official newspaper, whether you have a paid circulation or not. So there's an inaccuracy in this pamphlet.
Well, the paper you're using, you might have him prove that, since he's consolidated some, he has changed the masthead on.
Yeah, no, I'm not advocating one paper or the other. I have my own personal feelings about some of this stuff, but it's not my business. I agree with you there. The questions I have with respect to an unpaid, circulated, I'm not going to say circulated paper, are just those. Was it the same paper from 1940 through 1970? I have done some research. I did look back in, I was able to determine from 1959 through the 70s that paper was listed as an official newspaper, but before 59, I don't know what's occurred between 40 and 59, and I'm not going to do any more work on it. We'll ask that paper to do it if they want to be considered. But I have my opinion as to, which I'll give to the board. I think I've already given, maybe I haven't, but I just want you to know that I'm not mixing you out of the mix, nor am I supporting any other paper. All I care about is the integrity of our tax sale.
So it's the tax sale listings that obviously is, okay. Don't we recoup that money in a tax sale? I mean, that
Well,
doesn't...
I mean, it's not a cheap undertaking. Right now, we publish in the Plattsburgh Press and the Post-Star, and I think it runs us about $7,000 a tax sale. We have to publish on 3 different occasions in the newspaper, staggered by 2-week intervals, and they have to occur within, in each of 2 consecutive months. So it's about $7,000 between the papers. 30, if you want to make it the easy math is $3,500 a paper. So if you add another paper gratuitously, in my opinion, you're spending $3,500 you don't need to spend.
And Mrs. Moore...
Because it only requires 2.
I think the point is to reach as many taxpayers as you can reach. That's the...
Well, yeah,
I mean,
if that's the point, then put them in 65 papers.
What's that?
If you're going to go that far, put them in every paper that's published here. But, I mean, or make a determination which 2 are the best.
Mr. Cannon.
Right.
Well, in response to Mr. Scott's comment about the Post-Star, probably the 2 towns most affected would be Minerva and Newcomb by the publication, maybe some in Scroon. Quite frankly, I doubt if the people in Newcomb are waiting with bated breath to look at those tax sale numbers. I just don't think that's a big ticket item in the reading in the paper. So, I'm speaking for the town of Newcomb. I wouldn't be objective if somebody else took that tax sale publication.
And I should stress, in my mind, the importance of the notice in the newspaper is not for the general public to take a look and see who's not paid their taxes. It's for the people that haven't paid their taxes, who may not be savvy enough to know that their properties are up for sale. That's a notice provision. So that is the constituency which you want to reach, not everyone in your... It's the people who are entitled to the notice.
Roby.
So what percentage of those people that are notified that their properties are going to be auctioned for taxes are returned? What percentage of those notices are returned to us?
I couldn't tell you that.
I gotta believe it's very, very few.
Yeah,
So the point is, if they've been noticed properly, if they're aware of it,
right. Well, the notice that's required is you first do a certified mailing and a regular mailing. And just before you do that, you begin your first publication in the newspaper. So there's 3 publications in the newspaper. There's a certified mailing and a regular mailing.
are we mandated to put it in the paper?
Yes, in 2 editions. Mike is the person who's to make the...
And from Franklin County, just talking to them, they really recruit, people run in there. When we do pages of the Franklin County Tax Legal, as it runs, we cross out the people coming in to pay. They're very embarrassed, they come right in. And it's no-brainer. It's a good collection. Just like arrests are a good prevention. They'll say, oh, arrest me, but please don't put my name in the paper. That's how it is with tax liens.
The problem with Lake Placid is the majority of owners of properties in Lake Placid do not live there. Unlike other communities, 70% of all the owners do not live in Lake Placid. Well, you got timeshares and fractional interests and so forth, which make up the majority of the tax sale items. So, I have to tell you, I listened to the gentleman last week. People in Lake Placid don't read the Valley News. I'm sorry. That's not the case. So
He asked Mrs. Moore to give us a cost if she had run the last publication that we did for the tax sale, and to run in both of her papers 3 runs, which I guess is what we had to do, within $5,915.42. So that's what the cost of your paper if we had run the last time. And we did ask Dan Alexander, who did provide us with that number, but I don't have it with me. Sorry.
Ms. Moore, is it true that each paper, the state designates how much you can charge per line or something like that?
Yes, the rate card is in there, and so, like the Press Republican, they have a higher circulation, And even though you're using the free paper Dentons, if he says, I do $1 million, it would go under that circulation that he has to charge $1 million circulation, so you'll be paying more.
He did provide us with a circulation chart, what he does circulate in Essex and Clifton.
Yes, and ours is, I can send you the sworn circulation. But we cover Essex, the news, we want to keep people informed, so we hope that you'll see the value in reaching the people that really want to be engaged, and I think we do a really good job in reaching the citizens that care about what's being discussed in their community.
Mr. President.
I guess I've, the last couple of weeks, sat and heard these conversations, and again, it really boils down to, this is all in regards to tax sales. I guess my concern is, I don't think we as a board should be doing things to generate income for newspapers. I think we should be doing what we're legally charged with and trying to identify these people that haven't paid their taxes. And I think we go to great extent to try to reach out to these people and notify them. I mean, there's a very long legal process before we get here. My concern is I start to get a little bit of a feeling we're looking to just generate income for newspapers, and I really don't think that's what we should be doing with taxpayer dollars. I think to add additional costs just to appease the newspapers for their bottom line really isn't something we should be doing. We should be following the letter of the law and doing what's required of us. And if it means we have to make a tough decision and choose 2 newspapers, then so be it. But to add all of them just to appease the newspapers, I don't think that's what I was elected to do. I think I was elected to keep my eye on the taxpayer dollars. So, and I do, by the way, subscribe electronically to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise.
Thank you. I just want to bring one thing up too. The designation of the newspapers, the charge of that designation is given to the county, to the enforcing officer, who in our county is the county treasurer. So the board really doesn't make the decision on foreclosure notices. With respect to the designation of official newspapers, that's the board's province.
Anything else? Any further questions for Mrs. Moore? Mr. Charlie?
Is it an absolute that the names have to be published in a newspaper?
Yes.
Daily.
Do you feel that this may be an antiquated process inasmuch as we have the websites for the auction houses, and in as much as immediately when a name is published, as this lady has announced, that people come in and they pay? Now, that being said, that's old news now, but if people were referred to the website, that is updated on an hourly basis. So you have the absolute accurate data if you were interested in this. It appears to me that the law needs to be updated so that it fits modern times.
Right. You asked me, do I feel that's an antiquated system? I think, personally, just my opinion, is I don't think it's an antiquated system. And the reason I don't is that people still read newspapers. And I know people, computers are usurping what newspapers once did. And what newspapers have done is they've responded to that market change, and they put their newspapers online. And so I don't know, there's a segment of society, probably older people who do not use computers, who will never see these notices if they're just on the computer or on the website of HARF. So right now, I still think newspapers combined with the mail notices are the best way to get the word out. To put it on a computer, yes, a good segment of society will see it, but another segment won't. So newspaper in print and newspaper on the computer, right now, I think still is a good way to go. Ask me in 10 years, it'll be a different story, because everything will be done on the computer, and of course, print media will probably change, and everything will be...
Well, we try to offer open government in the news, in print, online. We don't care how you read it, as long as you read it. And I think we reach everybody not only through our subscribers and our public notices we put online, but with the New York State one that the New York Law Journal put together with the Publishers Association and the Press Association. Everybody can access that. To have a government do their own website and monitor that, it is like putting the wolf in charge of the hen house. It won't be as accurate as a newspaper, but it's hard to... We print thousands of names and towns and words. We get it 99% right. When we get it wrong, we say we do a correction. But I still think that it's harder for a regular citizen to seek out what's really going on if they have to go to a obscure website of a local government. They don't know town. They don't even know where the DMV is, some people saw.
So, just so I get to understand.
We already published, too, a list of delinquent taxes on file here, so, I mean, but the public's not savvy enough to know it's there. They can check to see if their name's there.
People certainly read the list of delinquent taxes in the newspapers, because once that's out, you start hearing it. I've even had the spouses of people come to see me and say, I didn't realize my house was up for taxes, because, for whatever reason, but, so we have 3 legal newspapers right now, correct? 4. So, and then it's the county treasurer's determination to determine where where these tax sales will be published. So why are we even having this discussion?
Well, then it's the board's decision.
It's not a board decision. You're already a legal newspaper, correct?
Going to budget an extra $20,000 to go...
No, I thought he could only pick 2 newspapers.
How do you pick 2?
Yeah, so...
He's only required to pick...
I mean, we're having all this discussion because Dan Alexander came in here and wanted, this is what started this fire, correct?
Well,
yeah, it did. I mean, I think we spent enough time on it, to be honest with you. I think we have our newspapers, and let's just stay the way we are.
any further comments, questions for Mrs. Moore?
Just that legally, it has to be paid newspapers. Illegally, it has to be a paid newspaper as the law stands
No,
now.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, in that publications...
Exception from the 40s to the 70s, that goes away with the paid portion.
But then publications are not paid newspapers. If you want to go back to the Ticonderoga Sentinel or whatever, that's...
I'm not advocating.
But the bottom line is they're not. You have 4 newspapers right now that you've designated. It's up to the county treasurer to decide which papers he's going to put the tax sale notices in. And the discussion.
Anything else? Mrs. Moore, thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion, thanks for taking the time to address the board. Thank you. Anything further to come before this committee? Not, or adjourned.